In my teaching, I'm constantly encouraging my students to make their way towards the net when they do have a good opportunity to, whether it be singles or doubles. There's just so many great opportunities at the net to try to put the ball away. And so I like to see my students get up there and take full advantage of that. In this video, I'm going to show you guys an opportunity that I very often times see players have in their singles points, but they don't take advantage of it. Let's go ahead and start watching this point. Now, John, up on the top of your screen, is going to be serving, and Charles is returning. Charles hits a good cross-court return. John runs around his backhand to hit a forehand, and at this point, John hits a good deep forehand into the court. And we'll see here, before John makes his swing, Charles has hit his return from a good position right around on top of the baseline. So he was in a good spot to hit his return from, and he has to retreat back to recover this good forehand that John hits after his serve. So let's watch John hit this forehand. Gets good height over the top of the net. He goes inside in on it, and Charles has to back up. And we'll see John's shot land right on top of the baseline. And by the time Charles makes contact here, he's well behind the baseline. He's had to back up probably about 5 feet or so, maybe 5 or 6 feet behind the baseline to be able to safely play this forehand back, because John did a good job of keeping the ball deep in the court. So at this point here, John is definitely in control. He's hit a good deep forehand ground stroke. Charles has been pushed back behind the baseline. Now let's see how Charles responds. And he ends up hitting a good shot back, kind of like John's. Hits it nice and high over the net and nice and deep in the court. And we'll see it land right in the corner. And that probably is, I don't know, maybe 4 feet inside the baseline or so. And it came down from pretty high up in the air. So this is a shot that we're going to see land and bounce up high to John's backhand side. Now, any of you who have been playing tennis for any length of time at all understand that a high backhand ground stroke is a very tough shot to hit. Now, let's see what both players do. John backs up. He's the one on the far side. He backs up to try to respond to the shot. And even though he backs up and goes just about all the way back to the fence, he still is in a very awkward position right here. And we see John making contact well above his head, much less his shoulders. And this is where Charles has his opportunity. Now, he probably didn't plan to hit this good of a shot off of a defensive ball. And let's actually back up here to that shot that Charles hit. And again, you'll remember that John had hit a good deep shot right here that's landing on the baseline. Charles really, off of this shot, where the ball literally lands on the baseline, he should really be happy to just stay in the point off of this shot. It's a very difficult shot to return. He takes it on the rise, and not only does he make it, but he ends up hitting a high, deep shot back to John. Now, he probably wasn't aiming this deep in the court, but that's besides the point. At right about this point in time, right here, where Charles has returned the shot, and we can see it landing, and it's obviously falling into the court deep on John's side. And at this point, Charles knows he has hit a good shot. And it's not that he was necessarily aiming there, but luckily for him, he's ended up hitting a very good shot back to John. Now, at this point in the singles point, I would love for you guys watching to be able to start anticipating this and start moving forwards into the net. If right now, as the ball is coming up to John, and right here we can see this is obviously going to be a very tough shot for John, I would love to see Charles and the rest of you guys start closing forwards towards the net right here. And I'd love to see Charles go past the baseline and go right up to the service line and get prepared for a high volley or an overhead to be able to put away. Now, that's not what happens. John plays a really tough shot from high in his backhand side. And look at how high the ball goes. And that's a smart play by John by putting the ball up into the air. And this is the shot that Charles could be volleying or even hitting an overhead on, because John has played a very defensive shot. Look at where John is. He's probably 10, maybe 12 feet behind the baseline off the court. His shot is now starting to land, and Charles is just hanging out on the baseline. And I would love to see Charles taking this out of the air. And let's see where it bounces exactly. It lands right on top of the service line. This could have been either an easy volley or an overhead if he got up there quickly enough, and a shot that he could definitely easily be directing towards the left side of the court and putting away from John. Instead, he only moves up a couple of steps back to the baseline, allows it to bounce, and now look at all the time that John has to get back into position. Now John is in a balanced position. He's ready for the next shot. And Charles has actually chosen to hit kind of a high backhand himself. So it's the difference between giving your opponent time to recover, get back into the point, get balanced, be ready for the next shot. And at this point right here, we've basically reset the point. The point has started all over again. And Charles had his opportunity to move forwards and put the ball away, but kind of wasted it by watching John recover that really tough high backhand. So from here, the point plays out. John rallies, gets back into the point, and the point's over, and John ended up winning the point. So look for these opportunities, guys. And this happens both in singles and doubles. But really what I'd like to talk to you guys about here today is the singles aspect. When you hit a good, deep ground stroke to your opponent and you put them well back into the corner or just back behind the baseline, use that opportunity to move forwards, pressure your opponent even further, and you'll have opportunities to put the ball away much more easily than if you stay back on the baseline.